G'day guys, welcome. It is Monday and I am looking forward to just having a short hiatus and just take my mind away from it. I'm just going to get off, other than I might put a couple of videos out over the course of the next 7 days, which won't be related to finals. I'm just going to switch off social media. I'm going to switch off footy talk. I'm not going to bother about thinking about Brisbane at all this week or us. I'm going to enjoy the weekend off. Think it's fantastic. I reckon if your team's not playing finals football, it could be a real drag. But I think from a fan perspective, we can just take a big breath. And obviously, physically, there's a number of players in our team who will really enjoy having that week off. Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, Jacob Wiedering, etc., etc. Plus the guys that we might get back. But yeah, I'm not going to get into how I'm feeling about everything that transpired after our loss yesterday, because it's probably going to come across as being, I don't know. Yeah. Let's just put it this way. I'm not jumping out of my skin at the moment, but I want to let it sit for 7 or so days. I'm going to do some gardening on the weekend and just enjoy a weekend away from it and then sink my teeth into it next week. So this is purely just a bit of a reflection on our last game of the year. How much time I want to spend on this, not quite sure, to be perfectly honest, because frankly, this probably won't be the team that will take the park in an elimination final against the Brisbane Lions, but it does deserve some dissection. I went to the footy with my mum yesterday, and when that siren sounded at the end and we got beaten by 2 points after we got in front, I wasn't upset. There was a bit of a sigh, but I wasn't upset. In fact, I wasn't happy, but I don't think I've been as ever more content with a loss like that and potentially not playing finals. I mean, I said it pretty clearly in my preview that as much as I felt this game was always going to be difficult, I would have just loved this group to be able to win the 2 games, to really fucking earn that right. Earn that right by, just having that, I suppose, that win against the odds. But the way this game ended was just so typical of us that I wasn't upset. And it's almost like I've come very, very sort of immune to the disappointment of this football club and football team. I don't for 1 minute think that there's not some real grit and determination and effort and all that type of stuff, and the ability for players to lift and want it, like desperately want it. It's not about that. But the way that game finished and the way we fucked it up, and this isn't on the young guys. This isn't like, I'm removing the fact that this was a young team or a team with some inexperience in it, that we let that game slip in the end. I wouldn't have had any faith at all if we had our best team on the park to defend that lead. But we're becoming an incredibly good team at being able to surge, like being able to show some resilience and fight back when it looks like the game's gone. And that's what it felt like yesterday. St Kilda, and I don't want to give too much oxygen to St Kilda, I really don't. Felt like I did that a lot in the preview. And at the end of the day, hats off to them, because their season was done. And I know, where was that desperation in St Kilda when they should have been building their year. But, geez, it'd be interesting to know whether our group would finish a year off like that when it was all gone. But I don't want to go there because that's one little positive, I suppose. Under Voss, our season's been alive right up until around 24. But back to my point, we are an incredibly good team at getting on a surge. And it looks like, this team's got some real spirit and some real energy and some real... But sort of become a little bit conditioned to that. But we also are an incredibly good team at fucking up when we get in front or when the game is right on the line and we should be icing it. And the very simplistic view would be that they just wanted it a bit more than us. But it's not that. And the Reddit will be, we'll hide behind, and Voss spoke okay in the press conference, and he spoke about effort, and he spoke about, we found something in this group over the last 2 weeks. We asked questions of this group. We're going to find, of course. But you know what we didn't find? When we needed someone to step up and kick that clutch goal, it wasn't going to be Brody Kemp. What an awful kick. And I know his pressure, but these are highly paid athletes. And he just doesn't strike me. I'm not giving up on Brody Kemp because I want to see him persevered as that third tall in our front half, or at least experimented with for a short period of time just to see if he can grow. I think yesterday it was always going to be a tough ask. One out. He's not the type of player that's going to straighten you up. But that was a fucking awful kick, and it just took you back to Mitch McGovern's effort. And we don't have those players, and I mentioned it we just don't have those players that can kick those clutch goals from a set shot, from that distance. I'm not talking a snap over the shoulder or whatever that may be. And so that was fucking awful. But worse than that was the last minute 30. And when we went on that surge, geez, the fans were fantastic yesterday. We were just so vocal, and we did our job. But when we got on that bit of a surge, and I had to go back through and have a look because I was trying to think, felt like we kicked more goals than what we did in that last quarter, but it was one to Ashton Moyer and then one to Motlop. Both goals on the run, and just the excitement and the noise. But when Brody Kemp missed that goal, and that would have put the game to bed, there was not one person, I reckon, from a Carlton supporter point of view, thought, nah, we'll fuck this up. Well, I did anyway. I shouldn't be making assumptions about other supporters, but there's that. I don't know. The way and it's symbolic of us. Like our Achilles heel all year has been this inability to defend defensive 50 stoppages, and they got a goal from it. But even just the way they work the ball down, and you sort of dissect it, and players getting lost, maybe just not working hard or losing concentration. And Voss fucking talks about it all the time, and I'm actually getting a little bit sick about it, owning the big moments. And not just owning that big moment in regards to kicking a goal, but just as a team. When the game, not when the game is lost and having that ability for players to lift and fight back. That almost feels like, oh, okay, the game's done, but let's just fight back into it. What have we got to lose? But when you're in front, we fuck it up a lot. So I left that game thinking yesterday, this is just sort of us. And I don't have any faith still in this group of players in that regards. That's not a knock on them as individuals. But you know what? I was sort of thinking about this before. And what I'll do is I'll quickly go through the players. Because I don't want to... Please don't misinterpret me here. I thought the effort and the intensity and the ability to stay in the game was great. But that's what I expect. Yeah, that's what I expect. That's sort of like non-negotiable. But the execution, I'm sick of fucking hearing about it. And I know we're down on numbers, I'm down, but we see it a lot even when we have our best players on the park. But when we go to the draft or bring players into this football club from other clubs, I want Nick Austin, I want Mick Agresta and Paul Brodie, the three big honchos at our football club, the three big recruiters, to start recruiting, not fucking gut runners, sure they're important, not super athletes that can fucking, can do the vertical leap and do somersaults and do this and do that and God, he's a beast and geez, he's a development. I actually want them to recruit some clutch players, some fucking smart, ice cool clutch players with exceptional football IQ. Football IQ. I really do. And I think it's the piece of the puzzle that's missing with this team. And it just gives me no real belief and faith, because I think the faith is there in regards to they can lift, they can grind it out, but I'm sick of hearing about owning the big moments. I'm sick of these lapses and these, and it's also, a little bit of lack of pure football talent and skill. Anyway, disappointing loss because of that, because of the way it ended, and a typical way this game ended, which has almost been us for a huge part of this year and a huge part under Michael Voss, if I'm brutally honest. So you ask the question, is it coaching? Or do you ask the question, is it essentially the blokes we have on this list? Are they ice? Are they cool? Do they have great footy IQ? Not quite sure they do. Anyway, I'm quickly going to go through. Lockie Cowan, thought he did a really good job on Mitch Owen. Played on him for most of the game. He's a dangerous player. Hasn't had a great year, but his form's been reasonable. And I liked his game. I liked his sort of, when we were really coming hard in that last quarter, he was getting involved as a young player. I thought he was okay. Wasn't a great game, but he kept Mitch Owen under wraps. Motlop was putrid. Four disposals. I know he kicked that goal, but he's a mile off it. A mile off it. I know he didn't have much of a pre-season and a late start to the year, and we were expecting big things from him, but he's a mile off. Taking that type of form into a final series. Ollie Hollands continues to grow. Liked him behind the ball again. 21 disposals. He looks like he's putting on some beef and some size as well. So I feel like it's been a pretty solid last month for Ollie Hollands. When others are sort of fallen away, he's a young player that's really stepped up. Kennedy was, he started forward. He was lively in the opening passage of play, but it's a big ask, isn't it, to us sort of undersized Kemp and Kennedy to play as keys. He got involved a few times, but he was also, if you look at the close vision late in the game, when that game we were trying to defend, he was one that was all over the shop. Cripper lifted. He was being manhandled by my man Liam Stocker, who I thought did a reasonable job on him and the other guy with the long hair, Hunter. Is it Hunter? With double teaming Cripps, and I just felt, at half time, I said to my mum, geez, he doesn't look right. He just hasn't really fired a shot in this game, Cripper. But it was almost like he was waiting for his time, like he didn't want to overexert himself for 4 quarters, and he was almost like, I'm going to get this surge, because if I go too hard too early, that's what it felt like, because that patch he had where he had 12 touches in that third quarter was just Patrick Cripps. He took the team and thought, I'm gonna get us back into it. I thought he was superb. Went a little bit quiet in the last quarter. Was he off a little bit? Was he forward? I know Steele ended up going to him. Were they trying to break that tag and give others responsibility through the middle of the ground? But still 30 touches, he was good. Akers is one of my favourite players. I just think that third quarter he stepped up with a couple of big goals, and he just gives his all. He gives his bloody all to this footy club. And I just enjoy him. I know he's not the most skilled player in the team, but he's just reliable. He's just reliable. Orazio, yeah, like most, I was probably a little bit surprised he came in for McGovern. Thought he did some really smart things, and I talk about players with footy IQ. If he was a bit younger and he had his body, which he had when he was younger, he's that type of player that's got it. But I feel like this is going to be Orazio in his time at Carlton. You know, your 10 disposals, maybe a good goal and a couple of nice kicks inside 50. Whether he can go beyond that, I'm not quite sure. He provided some class, which we lack. He hit up Kemp, he hit up someone else inside forward 50, and the goal he kicked was easily the best goal of the game. Jack Carroll, nice goal from outside 50, didn't make the most of his opportunity, subbed off. Kemp just couldn't get into it, could not get into it. But, fuck, it's a big ask. It's a big ask. But don't just chuck it out. I actually don't think he's a defender. I really don't now. And the more I see of him now, I'm thinking, let's persevere with him as that mobile third tall option. It's worth a shot. I mentioned in my preview, want to see Sam Walsh get back to somewhere near his best if we were any chance to win this game. And he was super. He had a couple of moments early where he turned the ball over, but as the game progressed, he just kept working his friggin' ass off in this game. And yeah, he's not perfect by foot. His disposal doesn't necessarily kill the opposition. He's not kicking goals, not hitting the scoreboard, which we'd like him to do. But he just kept going and going and going and helped keep this in the game. Durden just couldn't get into it. Poor game. Had one chance to kick a goal. Got his hands on it a little bit in the last quarter. Couple of tackles, but just ordinary. Really poor game. Elijah Hollins was in and out of the game, but ended up picking up 22 touches and was good in that last quarter. And yeah, I think it was a sort of a typical Elijah Hollins game. Jacob Wiedering, I don't know, just thought him and Young actually worked okay. I didn't think our defence was poor. I thought they battled our way really well in this game, but Wiedering just got lost a couple of times in the air, whether he was trying to zone off his opponent a little bit too much, but that's just the way we do like to defend. Nick Newman, big game. I'm not criticising Nick Newman. He had Matea Filippo, and Filippo was really dangerous, but we needed Newman to be super offensive, and I thought he was. So when you ask one of your defenders to play in that manner, then you've got to work it out defensively as a group. Who's responsible? Who's gonna come back as potentially that seventh defender? Who the midfielder's pushing back? Because I thought Nick Newman was great. Like 638 metres game, 35 touches, and he was really courageous. And sure, there was probably a couple of mistakes here and there, but geez, you can't fault that game. Jackson Binns, I actually didn't mind it. I think, I was like, it took forever to get an opportunity. He's had 16 touches. He's kicked a goal. It's a decent follow-up. I feel like it's been a pretty positive 2 games for Jackson Binns. Pitnet, I think Marshall was like the influence that I thought he was going to be. I kept putting the pit net stats up on the board that he was winning hit-outs, hit-outs to advantage, all that type of stuff, and kicked that fluky goal and didn't take a mark around the ground. He was okay. Not going to pot him. George Hewitt, he's had a big couple of weeks, Georgie Hewitt. In fact, he's had a pretty bloody solid year. Just keeps battling away. Lewis Young, I didn't mind his game. I actually didn't mind his game. I think he's, for the time being, found a place there. You think about it, he's probably going to be pretty important in the game against Brisbane, given that they got Danaher, Hipwood, and they're using Logan Morris as the third tall. So, yeah, we're going to need Lewis Young. Cooper Lord liked his last quarter. Fumbled a lot early in the game when the heat was really on. First game at Marble Stadium in Melbourne, there was probably a lot of his friends there and support, and yeah, he just fumbled a bit, but 19 touches. Cincotta I thought was super, really good early in the game. I can't think who he was playing on, but I thought he was really solid. And then, yeah, thought he was okay. Sard got back to somewhere near his best with 21 touches and provided some run. Ashton Moore just gave us a spark when he came on, and that move should have been made probably at maybe not half time, but early in the third. Can completely understand that he's young. Can completely understand that he mightn't be able to, given he's maybe a little bit undersized as a forward, that he's not going to be able to run a full game out. But he's going to make an impact when the sting may have gone out, and he showed that bit of class. It just felt like we didn't get full bang for buck from, pardon the pun, from Ashton Moyer. And Matty Owies, I reckon he's gone. I reckon he'll get suspended. I saw a tackle which he laid, and he sort of, I think he may get a week. Kicked the goal. No, I don't know. Matty Owies, another one with, I think, maybe low footy IQ, which isn't a knock, but just it is what it is. Anyway, gonna have a bit of a break, guys. Tell me what you think. I will see you guys next week. There will be a couple of videos out this week, but not related to our finals campaign. Speak soon.